What if I told you that she still thinks about you every single day, yet you will never again see her name illuminate the screen of your phone? She's watching you from a distance, checking your stories, scrolling back through your old messages, vividly recalling exactly how you used to make her feel. But she remains silent. She stays deliberately hidden away. And if you don't understand the profound psychological reasons behind this silence, you will remain trapped in a state of perpetual confusion, consumed by emotional pain, stuck in a waiting game that, by its very nature, you are destined never to win. Today, I'm going to provide you with a complete and deeply insightful understanding of precisely why she vanishes, why she continues to observe you from the shadows, and perhaps most importantly, how you can utterly and completely turn the entire dynamic around, reclaiming your power without uttering a single word or making a single move towards her. If you commit to listening intently until the very end of this message, I promise you, you will never again look at her, or more importantly, look at yourself, through the same lens. You are deserving of the unvarnished truth. You are deserving of the inherent power that belongs to you. You are deserving of an end to the lonely suffering you have been enduring. And that transformative process begins right now, in this very moment. My explicit goal, my mission, is to forge this channel into an essential weapon, a tool for men who have grown weary of the endless chase, who are exhausted by the debilitating self-doubt, who are tired of navigating life lost in a fog of confusion. If you truly believe, deep in your core, that knowledge holds the potential to dramatically alter the trajectory of your life, if you feel a calling to help disseminate this potent strength and clarity to every man who desperately needs it, then I urge you to lend your support to this channel. Do so by subscribing, by hitting the like button, and by leaving a meaningful comment below. By taking these simple actions, you become a vital part of the process, helping this crucial message bypass the algorithms and reach the eyes and ears of those who require it most urgently. Together, we possess the collective power to forge a generation of genuinely unstoppable men, men who are defined not by their pursuit of others, but by their unwavering commitment to leading their own lives. Let us embark on this journey together. The silent battlefield. Every single moment she finds herself alone with the swirling chaos of her thoughts, a relentless, unseen war begins to rage violently within the deepest chambers of her being. You might easily fall into the trap of thinking she has conveniently forgotten all about you. You might mistakenly believe that she no longer cares, that her feelings have simply evaporated into thin air. But concealed meticulously behind the carefully curated photographs she chooses to publish, hidden beneath the outward display of laughter and forced smiles you might occasionally glimpse, lies a fierce and agonizing internal conflict, a conflict so deeply buried that you are likely to remain completely unaware of its existence. One potent and persistent side of her conflicted heart is perpetually pulling her inexorably towards you, burdened by the immense weight of every single cherished or painful memory she is desperately attempting to suppress and bury. She remembers with vivid clarity precisely how effortlessly you made her laugh, often without even consciously trying. She remembers those late-night conversations, stretching into the early hours, during which she felt genuinely understood, truly seen, and deeply valued in ways that very few men throughout her life have ever managed to make her feel. She profoundly misses the simple, profound comfort that came from knowing, without a shadow of a doubt, that someone genuinely cared for her, not just superficially, but on a truly meaningful level. She remembers the intoxicating rush, the way her heart would involuntarily quicken its pace and flutter in her chest every single time she saw your name brilliantly illuminating her phone screen. She recalls how her entire world seemed to suddenly feel infinitely safer, immeasurably more secure, simply because you were a tangible part of it. This deep, aching sense of longing does not simply dissipate or vanish into nothingness. It lingers stubbornly, persistently, much like the heavy, residual smoke that hangs in the air long after a fire has been extinguished. Every single day, even if only for the briefest of moments, her thoughts inevitably drift towards you. She finds herself compulsively scrolling through old photographs you shared. She rereads past conversations, letting your words wash over her once more. She wonders incessantly about your whereabouts, about the people you are now spending your time with, and perhaps most tormentingly, she wonders if your thoughts ever, even fleetingly, wander back to her as well. But standing firm and unyielding on the opposing side of her mind, like an insurmountable fortress, is the paralyzing force of fear. The fear that if she were to yield and initiate contact by texting you first, you might not respond in the precise way she desperately hopes, or perhaps worse, you might not respond at all. The fear that if she allows herself to show even the faintest, most subtle sign of vulnerability, she will irrevocably lose her carefully constructed pride. The crushing fear that you have already moved on entirely, that you have discovered someone who is somehow fundamentally better than she is, that you have simply outgrown her and the connection you once shared. This fear is utterly paralyzing in its intensity. It effectively binds her fingers, preventing them from even beginning to type a message. It ruthlessly silences her impulses, crushing them before they can ever manage to break through her defenses. It is not indifference that is holding her captive in this state of profound silence. It is, at its core, a deep-seated instinct for self-preservation. And it's crucial to understand, fear is not the sole architect of her paralysis. Pride, that powerful, unyielding emotion, meticulously constructs a formidable wall between the torrent of emotions she genuinely feels and the carefully controlled facade she is willing, or rather unwilling, to reveal to the world, and especially to you. Pride sternly instructs her to simply wait. Pride relentlessly whispers in her ear, confidently convincing her that the individual who makes the first move is, by definition, the one who loses the emotional game. Pride insidiously poisons her heart and mind, taunting her with the cruel mantra, if he genuinely missed you, if he truly cared, he would undoubtedly have texted you first. Pride forces her to constantly watch her phone, her heart pounding with a silent hope of seeing your name appear, while simultaneously refusing point-blank to be the one perceived as weak, the one who finally succumbs and breaks the agonizing silence. Then, with a chilling precision, ego enters the fray, sharpening its cruel blade. Ego does not merely whisper suggestive thoughts, it issues direct, unequivocal commands. Ego forcefully tells her, you are meant to be the one desired, the one pursued, never the one who is reduced to begging for attention or connection. Ego adamantly convinces her that initiating contact, sending even the most innocent message, would not merely be a risky endeavor, it would be an utterly humiliating act, beneath her perceived status. In the theater of her own mind, the simple act of sending a text message transforms into a brutal, high-stakes battle between her genuine yearning for connection with you and the desperate need to maintain her carefully constructed, albeit imaginary, emotional status. Every single second that she maintains this silent vigil, she experiences a strange, complex mixture of both agonizing pain and a twisted sense of perverse victory. Pain, because the silence serves as a constant, brutal reminder of what has been irrevocably lost between you. Victory, because she has, in her mind, successfully avoided surrendering her pride. This torturous duality torments her far more profoundly than you could possibly imagine. On some desolate nights, she comes agonizingly close to surrendering. She almost sends that message, the one filled with unspoken feelings and fragile hope. She almost chooses the terrifying path of vulnerability. But in that critical, final second, the combined weight of her fear and her unyielding pride ruthlessly crushes the fragile spark of desire flickering within her, and she slams the door shut, locking her heart away once more. And here, my friend, lies the pivotal point, the crucial understanding you must grasp. The longer, the more disciplined, the more resolute you remain in maintaining your own silence, the heavier and more unbearable the psychological burden becomes on her side of this emotional battlefield. When you steadfastly refuse to text her, when you absolutely decline to give in to the urge, when you resolutely stop chasing her, you are, in effect, denying her the very emotional comfort and validation she secretly craves and desperately expects. She is, at her core, anticipating that you will be the first to break, the one who will crumble under the immense pressure of the unknown, the uncertainty, the silence. When you astonishingly do not break, it sends a shockwave through her carefully constructed reality. It profoundly destabilizes the comforting narrative she has been telling herself in order to feel emotionally secure. If you do text first, she exhales a sigh of immense relief. In her mind, she wins the game without having to expend any effort, without even lifting a finger. She feels a surge of perceived strength and power, precisely because you were the one who displayed emotional vulnerability first. But if you remain silent, if you hold your ground with an unwavering discipline, like a seasoned warrior defending his most prized possession, the very emotional ground beneath her begins to visibly crack and fragment. Doubt, insidious and persistent, begins to creep insidiously into her thoughts. Anxiety, sharp and relentless, starts to swell and grow within her. And the memories of you, instead of gently fading into the background, become sharper, more acutely painful, utterly consuming her thoughts. Your silence, in this context, transforms into your most potent and devastating weapon, because it leaves her with absolutely no choice but to confront everything and everyone, specifically the unresolved feelings and memories she has been desperately trying to run away from. It forces her, against her will, to grapple with the haunting possibility that she may have committed the single biggest mistake of her life by letting you go. So let this truth penetrate your understanding. Her silence is not, contrary to popular belief, a definitive sign of a woman who has completely ceased to care about you. It is, rather, a clear and compelling sign of a woman who is far too consumed by fear, fear of losing the carefully crafted image she is desperately trying to protect. A woman who is far too entrenched in her own stubbornness to admit, even to herself, the depth of the emotions she still harbors for you. A woman tragically trapped between the intense longing she feels for the connection you shared and the crushing fear that you have undoubtedly moved on and outgrown her completely. Why silence is her strategic play. Her silence is not an accidental oversight, nor is it irrefutable proof that she has unequivocally moved on and forgotten you entirely. Her silence is, make no mistake, a deeply calculated, deliberate move. A strategic play meticulously designed and executed to retain control, to keep the perceived power firmly within her grasp. The moment she senses, even vaguely, that you might potentially be missing her, the moment she feels, even for a fleeting second, that you might be wondering about her current state or whereabouts, she understands, intuitively, that she holds a significant advantage, the upper hand in this emotional dynamic. And to effectively maintain this precarious advantage, she understands she does not need to utter a single word. All she needs to do, the only thing required, is to remain steadfastly, strategically silent. Silence, by its very nature, creates a vacuum of information, and into that vacuum rush questions. Silence breeds gnawing doubts. Silence, in its most potent form, cultivates a profound sense of emotional instability and unease, particularly in the individual who is experiencing the stronger, more overwhelming emotions. She understands implicitly that if she were to break first and initiate contact, she risks irrevocably surrendering control of the situation. If she were to send that message, if she were to prematurely reveal her emotional hand, she risks appearing desperate, appearing as the one who cares more, the one who is more invested. And in her complex emotional world, that is a vulnerable position, a perceived weakness, that she simply cannot afford to occupy. When she chooses to remain silent, she is essentially making a high-stakes wager. She is betting, gambling, that your emotions, your need for certainty, will crumble and break before hers do. She is betting that your own mind will ultimately betray you, that you will inevitably begin to spiral into overthinking, that you will start to question everything, that you will find yourself compulsively scrolling through her old photographs, anxiously checking her stories for any sign of life, desperately hoping for some small signal, some indication of her feelings. She is betting, with a quiet confidence, that eventually, the deafening weight of the silence will become so overwhelmingly loud in your heart and mind that you will feel compelled to take action, any action, simply to bring an end to the emotional torment, that you will send a text message simply to silence the unbearable uncertainty that is consuming you. The very moment you do break, the very moment you yield and send even the smallest, most seemingly innocuous message, perhaps a simple, polite, "Hey, hope you're doing well," you lose more than you are capable of realizing in that instant. You immediately kill the mystery that your silence had cultivated. You remove the lingering doubts that had been plaguing her mind. You definitively answer all the unspoken questions that she had been wrestling with internally. You provide her with undeniable proof that you are still emotionally tethered to her, that you are still deeply affected by her absence, that you are still actively waiting, still hoping, still invested. And the instant she fully comprehends this, something fundamental and significant shifts within the dynamic. The tenuous grip she felt was slipping away begins, slowly but surely, to tighten once more. The control she desperately feared losing is effortlessly restored to her. She doesn't even feel compelled to respond with overwhelming enthusiasm or warmth. She can choose to ignore your message completely. She can deliberately leave you unread, leaving you hanging in uncertainty. She can choose to send a cold, detached, indifferent reply. None of these specific responses truly matter in the grand scheme of things, because the real power in this exchange does not reside in her reply, or lack thereof. The true power lies entirely in the undeniable confirmation you have just provided her, the confirmation that you still care enough, that you are still emotionally invested enough, to be the one to break and send the first message. You might try to rationalize your actions, telling yourself that you were merely being polite, attempting to be mature, showing that you've moved on. But in this complex emotional game, outward appearances are utterly irrelevant. Your noble intentions hold no sway. The only thing that possesses genuine significance are your actions. And the act of texting first, regardless of the content, is a definitive action that unmistakably reveals your current emotional position. It strips away your defenses and exposes your emotional vulnerability for all to see, while she remains safely concealed behind her carefully constructed wall of silence. Silence functions effectively as her strategy precisely because it is inherently effortless. It requires absolutely no exertion on her part. She doesn't need to pick up the phone and call you. She doesn't need to compose and send a lengthy text message. She doesn't feel compelled to provide any explanations for her behavior. She simply waits. She waits with a quiet confidence. Secure in the knowledge that the vast majority of men simply lack the emotional fortitude required to withstand prolonged emotional silence. She is confident that most men crave answers, crave certainty, more desperately than they value their own dignity or emotional integrity. She is confident that most men will, inevitably, eventually text, if for no other reason than to simply feel something again, to break the tension. Her silence, despite how it may appear on the surface, is not a manifestation of genuine inner strength. It is, in truth, fear cleverly disguised. It is pride wearing an impenetrable mask. But it is undeniably effective, because the world, in its strange and counterintuitive way, often rewards those who appear to be the least interested, the least invested. In the subtle battleground of emotions, the individual who seems to care less is invariably the one who wields the most power. And silence masterfully creates the convincing illusion of indifference, even while the true emotional reality may be tearing her apart from the inside. If you break the silence and text her, you readily hand her the certainty she desires. You put an immediate end to the nagging questions that have been swirling in her mind. You grant her an effortless emotional victory, all without requiring her to take any risks whatsoever. But if you remain silent, if you consciously master your own impulses and emotions and hold your position with unwavering discipline, you force her, relentlessly, to confront the emptiness that she has been desperately trying to ignore, to evade. You force her to live, fully and painfully, with the reality of the decision she made. You force her to genuinely wonder, with increasing anxiety, if she hasn't made a catastrophic mistake. The very silence that once provided her with a twisted sense of comfort and security now begins, subtly but powerfully, to turn against her, becoming her formidable enemy. The longer it persists, the more deeply it begins to gnaw away at her mind, consuming her thoughts. At first, she might rationalize, telling herself, "He's just being stubborn, playing some sort of childish game." Then, as the silence endures, she might shift her internal narrative, thinking, "He's definitely playing mind games with me." But as the days gradually stretch into weeks, and the weeks bleed into months, the entire narrative structure in her mind undergoes a fundamental and unsettling transformation. Doubt, once a quiet whisper, begins to speak with a deafening roar, louder than her ingrained pride. Haunting questions emerge. What if he genuinely has moved on completely? What if he truly doesn't miss me anymore, not even a little? What if I have lost him forever, irrevocably? This is the precise moment when the very silence she weaponized begins, ironically, to break her, rather than continuing to protect her. This is the critical juncture when the emotional scales, once heavily weighted in her favor, begin, slowly but surely, to tip in the opposite direction. The illusion of moving on. You may continue to see her radiant, smiling face in photographs she shares, perhaps wearing that same familiar smile that once had the power to make your heart race uncontrollably. You might catch fleeting glimpses of her traveling, posing effortlessly with groups of friends against picturesque backdrops, sharing breathtaking photos of sunsets, captured seemingly carefree while dancing at vibrant clubs. You might observe her regularly reposting motivational quotes about resilience, about fierce independence, about the process of healing, about confidently moving forward with life. And all of this, witnessed from a distance, can land like a physical blow to your chest, because it creates the devastating impression that she has already effortlessly left you far behind. It certainly appears, on the surface, that she has miraculously found genuine happiness in a world without you, leading you to question if perhaps she never truly cared about you as deeply as you once believed she did. But there is a crucial, fundamental truth you must internalize, something that the vast majority of men tragically fail to recognize in these situations. People, especially on social media, do not publish the raw, unfiltered reality of their inner truth. Instead, people meticulously construct and publish a carefully crafted image, a polished facade, that they desperately want the world, and perhaps themselves, to believe is authentic. Hidden meticulously behind every perfectly posed, smiling selfie might reside a mind drowning in waves of deep regret and a heart that still aches, profoundly, for the connection, the intimacy, the love that has been irretrievably lost. Concealed beneath every defiant post about inner strength and resilience might lie countless lonely nights spent weeping silently into a pillow that still, agonizingly, carries the faint scent of the shared memories you once created together. Behind every meticulously curated photograph depicting a seemingly perfect, effortless life might lurk a pervasive sense of profound emptiness, a void she is desperately trying to escape through endless distractions and superficial validation, but from which she can never truly, completely flee. She is not posting these images and captions because she has genuinely healed or authentically moved forward. She is posting, predominantly, because she is actively hiding. She is desperately hiding from the creeping, suffocating loneliness that inevitably descends the moment the external noise and distractions cease. She is hiding from the uncomfortable truth that, despite all her efforts to pretend otherwise, something vital and essential is undeniably missing from her life without you in it. Every single photograph she shares serves as an emotional shield. Every carefully chosen caption functions as a piece of psychological armor. Every story she posts online represents a formidable wall, erected between the harsh reality of the world outside and the brutal, unseen war that is relentlessly raging within her chest. She is not moving on as swiftly or as effortlessly as her online presence might suggest. She is, in fact, engaged in a constant, internal battle, primarily trying to convince herself that she is. She is fighting an invisible war, a conflict you will never, ever see documented on her Instagram feed. She is desperately attempting to fill the gaping hole left within her with fleeting attention, with endless distractions, with external validation, but none of these temporary substitutes can ever truly fill the sacred space where genuine, authentic love once resided. When the party inevitably ends, when the temporary numbing effect of alcohol gradually wears off, when the last of the friends have departed and a chilling silence descends upon the room, that is when the carefully constructed mask she wears finally crumbles and falls away. That is when the raw, unvarnished, true emotions finally manage to break through her defenses. Alone in the solitude of her own bed, perhaps scrolling through her phone in the oppressive darkness, she finds herself compelled to replay your conversations over and over again in her mind. She hears the distinct sound of your voice once more, as if you were right there beside her. She reimagines, with vivid and painful clarity, what it felt like to be genuinely cared for, truly seen, by a man who looked beyond the surface, who saw the depths of her soul, not merely the contours of her body. And that profound, aching pain hits her with a force far greater, far more devastating, than any sad heartbreak song she might attempt to drown her sorrows in. It screams louder, far louder, than any defiant quote about strength or independence that she might choose to post for the world to see. And if you, in a moment of debilitating weakness and yielding to the urge, choose to break your silence and reach out to her first, you effectively lift this immense psychological pressure from her shoulders. You let her off the hook, freeing her from the consequences. You provide her with an immediate rush of external validation, a temporary reprieve that momentarily masks her underlying pain, albeit only for a brief period. She won't be forced to confront and fully feel the devastating consequences of losing you if you continue to subtly signal to her that she still retains a degree of emotional access to you. That you are still available. But if you remain silent, if you steadfastly hold your ground with the quiet strength and conviction of a man who values his own self-respect and worth far more than the temporary comfort of reaching out because he misses her, you allow the silence to continue its powerful, transformative work. You allow it to grow heavier, more oppressive, more unbearable. You allow it to dig deeper and deeper into the recesses of her mind, planting seeds of doubt and regret. In time, this persistent, unwavering silence from your end becomes an utterly unbearable burden for her. Not because you are actively trying to inflict pain upon her, but because she is finally forced to realize, with a crushing certainty, that she simply cannot escape the profound reality of what she has lost. No amount of shallow likes on social media, no multitude of followers, no thrilling adventures, no number of forced, artificial smiles can ever truly touch, let alone fill, the significant void that your absence has left within her. And it is only within the crucible of this deep, prolonged silence that true, genuine regret is finally born and allowed to flourish. Authentic regret is not an emotion felt amidst the comforting noise of crowded rooms or the fleeting validation of social media. It is an emotion profoundly felt in the desolate loneliness of her own mind, in those quiet, vulnerable moments when there is absolutely nothing left to distract her from the truth. The illusion of her effortlessly moving forward is, ultimately, just that, a carefully constructed illusion. A meticulously planned performance, designed and staged for the world to see and believe, all while she is privately engaged in fighting unseen, brutal battles within the confines of her own heart and mind. And the longer your silence endures, the exponentially more difficult it becomes for her to maintain this fragile facade, this intricate illusion. It begins, inevitably, to crack. At first, the cracks are subtle, appearing as small, nagging doubts. Then, they widen, manifesting as lingering, persistent thoughts that refuse to dissipate. Finally, the illusion shatters completely, giving way to overwhelming waves of agonizing questions and the terrifying realization, what if I made the single biggest mistake of my entire life by letting him go? You do not have to react to her social media performance. You do not have to chase after her. You do not have to break your silence. Because every single day that you choose not to text her, every single moment that you consciously refrain from checking her story, every single second that you continue, relentlessly, to build and improve your own life without her presence, you become incrementally larger, more significant, more powerful in her memory. You transform into the person she simply cannot replace. You become the one who genuinely got away. The one she mistakenly believed would always be there, readily available, until, suddenly and irrevocably, you were not. And regardless of what her photographs outwardly depict, regardless of the carefully chosen words in her captions, regardless of who happens to be standing physically beside her in the present moment, deep down, she will know the truth. She lost a man who possessed the rare and quiet strength to release her, to let her go, without resorting to begging, without chasing after her, without fundamentally losing himself in the process. That kind of man is, by his very nature, unforgettable. That kind of man leaves a profound, indelible scar, an emotional imprint that no amount of superficial attention or temporary replacement can ever truly heal or erase. And that, my friend, is precisely the kind of man you are inexorably becoming, if you maintain your silence and relentlessly continue to move forward with your own life. The moment you lose. You lose the game, my friend, in the exact same moment you choose to make the first move towards her. The instant you yield to the urge and send that seemingly simple message, naively believing it to be harmless or insignificant, you decisively lose. The second you react to her Instagram story, perhaps with a casual like or a trivial comment, desperately hoping that she will notice your acknowledgement, you utterly lose. The very second you comment on one of her posts with something meaningless, foolishly thinking that perhaps this small interaction might somehow miraculously reignite a forgotten spark, you unequivocally lose. You lose, clearly and irrefutably, because in the intricate landscape of her mind, your action, regardless of its intention, confirms one absolute truth. It confirms that she still holds significant sway over your emotions. It confirms that she still occupies a central, powerful place within your heart. It confirms that she still has you precisely where she desires you to be, thinking about her, desperately hoping for a connection, and passively waiting for her to make a move that may never come. This single, seemingly insignificant message, this solitary like, acts as a powerful stimulant, fueling her ego like a rush of pure oxygen to an already burning fire. It communicates to her, even without the need for explicit words, "You still hold more importance to me, you still mean more to me, than I mean to myself." And the instant she fully comprehends this profound truth, she no longer experiences the compelling necessity to miss you. She feels no sense of urgency, no painful awareness of loss, no gnawing pangs of regret. Because why on earth would she feel the need to genuinely miss a man whom she knows, with absolute certainty, she can emotionally reach out to and re-engage with at any given moment she desires? The simple, unvarnished truth is this: nothing is inherently less attractive to a woman than a man who is manifestly unable to master and control his own emotions. A man who makes the first move, who texts first, even with the most minimal or subtle gesture, unequivocally demonstrates that his feelings, his impulses, his desires, are taking precedence over his self-control, his discipline, his strength. He reveals, through his actions, that he is being led and dictated by fear or a desperate need for validation, rather than being guided by a strong sense of purpose and conviction. He shows that he requires her presence, her validation, her interaction, in order to feel emotionally stable and grounded. And women, on a deep, almost primal, instinctual level, are naturally repelled and will instinctively pull away from this perceived neediness and lack of self-possession. This behavior makes you appear undeniably weak, frustratingly predictable, and disappointingly common. And few things in the emotional landscape kill attraction faster and more effectively than a lack of mystery, a lack of unpredictability. Every message you send, every attempt you make to subtly remind her of the good times you once shared, does not magically bring her closer to you. Instead, paradoxically, it makes you appear smaller, less significant, less desirable in her eyes. It systematically chips away pieces of the image of the strong, self-possessed man she once admired, perhaps even desired. It reduces you from the status of a rare, valuable prize, the man she once feared losing, to just another ordinary man, desperately chasing after something that has already, irretrievably, slipped through his fingers. Every single step you take towards her only serves to reinforce and validate, in her mind, the very reasons why she chose to leave in the first place. Because strong men, men of genuine substance and character, do not chase after those who willingly walk away. They do not beg for attention, for affection, for a second chance. They do not initiate contact, sending the first message in a desperate attempt to prove their worth or emotional investment. Instead, they stand firm. They hold their ground with quiet dignity and unwavering resolve. They allow their very absence, their silence, to speak volumes for them. If you genuinely want her to miss you, to truly, deeply miss your presence in her life, you must, quite simply, disappear. You must become the empty space, the significant void, within her conscious awareness, a void that she finds herself utterly unable to fill with superficial distractions or external noise. You must leave her grappling with unanswered questions. Consumed by lingering doubt, plagued by a slow, creeping fear that perhaps, just perhaps, she has lost something truly irreplaceable, something she may never, ever find again. The only reliably effective method to genuinely make her regret the decision she made to lose you is through the disciplined, unwavering, and complete embrace of silence. Not a manufactured silence, not a calculated tactical silence maintained for just a few days merely to test her reaction. I mean true silence. A silence that is not merely a temporary tactic, but an enduring way of life, a fundamental principle. A silence that unequivocally declares, through its very existence, I am not, and will not, chase after something or someone that is willingly walking away from me. I am not, and will not, beg for attention or validation from someone who demonstrably fails to recognize or appreciate my inherent worth. I am consciously choosing to prioritize and value myself, my peace, my future, over clinging desperately to the memories of the past. This profound kind of silence doesn't just make her miss your physical or emotional presence. It forces her, compels her, to see you in a light, from a perspective, that she has never experienced before. As the man who could have easily pursued her, who could have begged for her return, but who, instead, with quiet strength, chose himself, chose his own path. If you yield and break your silence, even just one single time, for any reason, you effectively wipe the slate clean. You completely zero out the emotional advantage you had painstakingly built through your discipline. You instantly become predictable once more, expected, tragically common. But if you remain steadfastly silent, if you hold and control your emotions with the quiet dignity and unwavering resolve of a king guarding his most precious crown, untouched, inviolable, unshaken, you transform yourself into something truly unforgettable. You become the one who, through your strength and discipline, slipped through her fingers. You become the haunting story she finds herself compelled to tell herself in those quiet, vulnerable moments when the world's noise fades away. The man who didn't chase, the man who didn't beg, the man she desperately desires to reach out to connect with, but finds herself utterly unable to. Silence is not your enemy, it is your most powerful strength. Discipline is not a burden, it is your sharpest weapon. And mastering your emotions, maintaining your composure in the face of temptation, that, my friend, is your ultimate, decisive victory. The power of emotional control. Men of genuine strength are not strong simply because they speak the loudest, shout the most aggressively, or chase after things with the most frantic energy. They are strong, fundamentally, because they operate with a deep-seated sense of restraint and calculated intention. They possess the ability to remain calm, centered, and composed when those around them are spiraling into panic or emotional chaos. They do not react impulsively to every fleeting feeling or momentary urge that crosses their mind. They understand, on a profound level, that temporary, transient emotions should never be allowed to dictate permanent, irreversible actions or decisions. They possess an inner knowing that their inherent value, their worth as a man, is not measured or determined by who chooses to accept or reject them. They understand, unequivocally, that their worth is already complete, whole, and self-contained, utterly independent of any external approval or validation. Emotional control, in this context, is not merely a useful skill to be acquired. It is a formidable shield, a powerful defense against external manipulation and internal chaos. It is the defining characteristic that unequivocally separates the weak from the strong, the common from the truly exceptional. It is the alchemical force that transforms a man from someone easily forgotten into someone who is undeniably, perpetually unforgettable. When you are capable of sitting comfortably within the vast expanse of silence, when you can feel the intense, almost overwhelming urge to reach out, to text her, and yet remain rooted, unmoving, refusing to yield to the impulse, when you can feel the storm of longing and aching for her swirling within you, vividly remembering her touch, her laughter, her presence, intensely craving her return, and yet, despite it all, you remain still, composed, unshakable. That is the manifestation of true, profound strength. That is the precise moment when you cease to be a mere memory that she believes she can conveniently control or revisit at will, and you begin, instead, to become a compelling, intriguing mystery, a puzzle that she finds herself utterly unable to replace or solve. You cease to be the man who passively waits by the phone, hoping for a sign, and you begin, instead, to become the man who is now firmly, decisively, outside of her emotional reach. You become unpredictable, a rare entity in a predictable world. You become the man who relentlessly haunts her thoughts, not because you are actively pursuing her, but precisely because you are nowhere to be found, nowhere within her grasp. Women, contrary to the narratives often peddled, do not genuinely miss men who are perpetually available, always within reach, always responsive to their every whim. They do not lie awake in the quiet darkness of the night, consumed by wonder or longing, thinking about men who are constantly, anxiously, reminding them that they are still present, still waiting, still available. They miss, deeply and powerfully, the men who have the courage and conviction to disappear, to recede into the process of building their own greatness, their own self-sufficient lives. They miss the men who possess the inner strength to hold their own frame, to establish and maintain their own boundaries, who are actively engaged in constructing their own kingdom, their own fulfilling reality, and who resolutely refuse to allow the lingering memories or emotional residue of a past connection to hold them captive or chain them down. Men who are rare in their self-possession, who are fiercely disciplined in their actions and emotions, who demonstrably value their own self-worth and long-term fulfillment above the fleeting satisfaction of momentary emotional impulses. Those are the men whom women eventually come to profoundly regret losing. Every single time you feel that familiar, persistent itch to reach out to her, every single time you pick up your phone, your mind desperately whispering, maybe, just maybe, this time she will finally appreciate it, finally see my value, stop yourself. In that critical moment, remember that every single second you successfully resist that powerful temptation, every single second that you consciously choose silence over the instinct to chase, you are actively building layers of potent doubt within the fortress of her mind. You are meticulously creating unanswered questions, questions that have no easy or immediate resolution. You are generating a palpable emotional tension within her that she finds herself utterly unable to resolve or dismiss. You are actively planting the tiny, insidious seeds of regret, seeds that will continue to grow and deepen with each passing day that your silence endures. While you remain steadfastly silent, she begins to question, with increasing frequency and intensity, has he truly, definitively moved on? Has he perhaps already found someone else to replace me? Has he finally realized, with clarity, that he genuinely deserves something far better than I could provide? The longer you successfully hold your emotional ground, the exponentially stronger you become. Not merely stronger in her perception of you, but more profoundly, stronger within the core of your own being, stronger in your own life. Because mastering emotional control is not a skill that solely benefits your interactions within relationships. It is a foundational strength that builds power, resilience, and capability in every single area of your existence. It sharpens your focus, enhances your mental clarity. It fortifies your spirit, making you internally robust. It transforms you, fundamentally, into the kind of man that no woman can easily forget, regardless of how hard she tries. The kind of man that the challenges and adversities of the world cannot easily defeat. Master your emotions, and you will master the complex battlefield of relationships and life itself. Master your emotions, and you will seize control of your own destiny. Your new mindset. Your new mindset, your profound transformation, begins with a singular, resolute decision. A decision so powerful, so absolute, that once you fully embrace it and commit to it, there is simply no possibility of turning back, no path that leads you back to the man you once were. You are no longer the man who is aimlessly chasing after emotional shadows, pursuing a connection that exists only in the past. You are no longer the man who passively waits by the phone, perpetually wondering if she will ever, finally, realize the immense value she has carelessly discarded. You are no longer the man tragically trapped within the confines of memories of what once was, emotionally shackled to a version of yourself that mistakenly believed it needed her validation, her approval, her presence, in order to feel truly alive, truly complete. That man, the one defined by neediness and confusion, no longer exists. You have consciously, decisively, buried him. You have made the deliberate choice to rise from the ashes, reborn and stronger. From this day forward, you are singularly focused on constructing a life where you, your purpose, your growth, are the undeniable center of gravity, not her, not anyone else. You are building a life so profoundly full, so deeply rich, so incredibly powerful and compelling, that her absence from it feels no more significant or disruptive than a mere ripple on the vast, boundless surface of an ocean that she can no longer, by any means, ever hope to cross or access again. You no longer perceive her silence as a painful act of rejection, a commentary on your worth. Instead, you see it clearly for what it is, a powerful redirection of your own valuable energy and focus. Every single second that you do not hear from her, every moment that passes without her presence in your life, is not a moment of loss, but a precious second that you are consciously, deliberately, investing back into yourself, into the expansion of your mind, the strengthening of your body, the relentless pursuit of your mission, the building of the empire that you are inherently destined to create. You are not here, on this earth, for the purpose of desperately chasing after someone who is clearly willing to walk away from you, to leave you behind. You are here, with purpose, to forge a life so remarkably outstanding, so compellingly attractive, that others, including her, will inevitably come to profoundly regret losing access to the incredible person you have become. Understand this fundamental truth: women do not, cannot, make you whole. No other person possesses the power to make you complete or define your value. You were already whole, inherently complete, a person of immense value long before she ever entered your life, and you have become even stronger, even more resilient, now that she has departed. Her decision to leave did not, in reality, break you. What it did, profoundly and irrevocably, was shatter the illusions, the limiting beliefs, the false narratives that you were once living within. It broke apart the erroneous conviction that you required someone else's presence, someone else's validation, to affirm your inherent worth or significance. The profound, liberating truth is that you lose absolutely nothing of genuine value by her leaving your life. You lose everything, however, if you allow yourself to become lost, if you compromise your true self, in a desperate, futile attempt to get her back. You lose everything that truly matters if you transform yourself into the kind of man who is willing to sacrifice his dignity, his self-respect, his inner pride, and his fundamental peace of mind, simply for the uncertain chance of being chosen, being wanted, by someone who once doubted your worth, who once decided you were not enough for her. That version of you, the one willing to compromise himself, is not the man who will win in this life, who will achieve true fulfillment. The world is a vast, boundless landscape overflowing with new opportunities, teeming with new dreams waiting to be pursued, new victories waiting to be claimed, new people who will see you, truly see you, for the incredible person you are, without the slightest need for you to explain yourself, to beg for their acceptance, or to desperately chase after their approval. But these life-altering opportunities, these new connections, these victories, reveal themselves and open up only to men who possess the courage and the conviction to step forward, to move ahead with unwavering resolve. They do not appear for those who remain frozen in place, perpetually looking backward, wistfully wishing they could somehow rewind time and change the past. Life, in its infinite wisdom, relentlessly rewards forward movement. Life rewards resilience in the face of adversity. Life rewards, above all else, the men who make the conscious, deliberate, and powerful choice to embrace their future, rather than remaining tethered to the past. Today, in this defining moment, you have ceased to be a hunter of ghosts, chasing after the ephemeral echoes of what once was. You have ceased to squander your precious energy, your limited focus, on something that is irrevocably in the past. You have ceased waiting passively for her to somehow miraculously realize your inherent worth, because you, finally, powerfully, realized it first, for yourself. You are actively becoming the man she will inevitably, profoundly, regret losing. Not through empty words, not through desperate, pleading actions, but through the quiet, powerful way you are choosing to disappear into a life that she can no longer reach, a life that is now firmly beyond her grasp. A life she can only observe from a distance, a life so abundant, so powerful, so clearly moving forward, that the version of you she once knew feels increasingly like a distant, untouchable dream, a reality she can no longer access or influence. You are not chasing. You are not waiting. You are not begging. You are building. You are rising. You are becoming. And when she inevitably thinks about you, and make no mistake, she absolutely will, it will not be with a sense of comfort or nostalgia. It will be with a burning, aching pain, a profound sense of loss, that she finds herself utterly unable to soothe or extinguish. Knowing, deep within her, that she lost a man who found the inner strength and resolve to become genuinely unstoppable, not because of her, but precisely without her. This path you are now forging is not about seeking revenge or making her suffer. It is about the fundamental act of reclaiming that which has always, inherently, belonged to you. Your power, your dignity, your quiet pride, your invaluable peace of mind. Every single time you successfully resist the almost overwhelming desire to reach out, to text her, you become intrinsically stronger. Every single moment that you consciously choose to remain silent, you rise higher, both in her perception and, more importantly, in your own self-awareness. Every single step you take forward, without ever looking back at the past you are leaving behind, is a powerful act of reclaiming your life, your future, your destiny. She had her chance. Now, you are building something far greater, far more significant, far more enduring. Not for her, not for anyone else, but for yourself. If you have found genuine value in the words shared here, if you believe, with conviction, that every man navigating the pain and confusion of a past relationship deserves to hear this vital message, then I implore you to lend your support to this channel. By subscribing, by leaving a like on this video, and by sharing your thoughts in a comment below, you are not just engaging, you are actively helping us bypass the algorithms and reach thousands of men who are, right now, silently suffering, feeling lost and alone, desperately needing this message, this strength, this clarity. Together, united in purpose, we can forge a powerful brotherhood of unstoppable men, men who are defined not by chasing after others, but by the unwavering courage and determination with which they lead their own extraordinary lives.